The night was wild. The wind howled through the trees like an angry beast, and rain hammered against the small wooden hut on the edge of the forest. Ethan sat near the fire, his hands wrapped around a steaming cup of tea, listening to the storms roar. He was used to nights like this, far from the nearest town, with nothing but the sound of nature to keep him company. But tonight felt different. The air seemed heavy, almost tense, as if the storm carried something more than just wind and rain. Then it came 3 sharp knocks on the door, not the kind made by the wind or a loose branch. These were heavy, urgent and human-like. Ethan froze, his heart thudding in his chest. No one ever came here at night, not in weather like this, and certainly not in the middle of a storm that could snap trees in half. For a moment, he stayed still, listening. Another knock followed, harder this time, and then a faint voice, weak but clear through the storm, "Please help me." Ethan stood, his instincts telling him to be careful, reached for the old hunting knife on the table before moving. To the door? Slowly, he lifted the latch and pulled it open just enough to see outside. A figure stood in the rain, shivering. She was tall, slender, with skin that seemed to glow faintly under the flashes of lightning. Her clothes were torn and clung to her body from the rain, and strange markings ran along her arms and neck, glowing lines like threads of light under her skin. Her eyes, a deep violet color, locked onto his with desperation. "Please," she said again, her voice shaking, "let me in. They are coming." Ethan's first thought was that she was no human. He had never seen anyone like her, not even in the strange markets he'd once visited far across the desert. Every part of him wanted to ask who she was, what she was, but the fear in her voice was real. Without another word, he pulled the door wider and stepped aside. She stumbled in, dripping water onto the wooden floor, her breathing heavy. Ethan closed the door quickly and slid the latch shut. "Sit by the fire," he said, pointing to the rug. She moved slowly, her legs trembling, and lowered herself near the flames. Steam rose from her wet clothes as the heat reached her. For a long moment, the only sounds were the crackle of the fire and the pounding of rain on the roof. Then Ethan asked, "Who are you?" She lifted her head, her eyes reflecting the firelight. "My name is Soraya," she said quietly, "and I am being hunted." Ethan frowned. Hunted by who? She glanced toward the window, as if afraid they were already outside. "Not by your kind," she whispered. "By mine." Why she said it made Ethan's skin prickle. He had heard stories, rumors of strange travelers from far-off worlds, but he had never met one. Now one was sitting in his hut, shivering beside his fire. Before he could ask more, a heavy thud sounded from outside. Not at the door this time. It came from the ground like something large stepping in the mud. Ethan's hand went to his. Knife again, and Soraya's eyes widened. "They have found me," she whispered, her voice trembling. Ethan moved to the window and peered through a small gap in the curtain. For a second, he saw nothing but the blur of rain. Then, in the next flash of lightning, he saw them, 2 tall shapes, moving slowly between the trees. They were armored, their bodies covered in dark plates that gleamed wet under the rain, and they carried long weapons that pulsed with a faint blue light. He stepped back from the window, his mind racing. "What do they want?" he asked. Soraya's gaze met his. "Me. They want to take me back, and if they find you with me, they will kill you too." Ethan's grip tightened on the knife. He wasn't sure why, but something in her voice told him she was telling the truth. The storm outside suddenly seemed like the least of his problems. "You can leave," she said softly, "and they might let you live. But if you keep me here, you choose to stand against them." Ethan stared at her, the firelight flickering across her strange glowing marks. His gut told him he should send her away, close the door, and forget this night ever happened. Part of him, the part that hated bullies and hunters, refused to abandon her. "You can stay," said firmly, "but you're going to tell me everything." Soraya's shoulders eased just slightly, relief flashing in her eyes. But then another heavy step sounded outside, closer this time, followed by the crunch of something against the hut's wall. They are here, she whispered again, her voice filled with dread. Ethan's heartbeat quickened. This stormy night had just turned into something far more dangerous, and there was no going back. The rain had not stopped. It slammed against the roof like 1,000 fists, and the wind screamed through the cracks in the walls. But inside the hut, the fire burned low, casting long shadows across the floor. Ethan stood near the window, his knife in hand, watching the dark shapes move outside. Saraya's violet eyes followed him, her body still trembling, though whether from cold or fear he could not tell. The strange glowing lines on her skin pulsed faintly, like the slow beat of a heart. "They are close," she said in a low voice, "and they can smell me even through the storm." Ethan turned his head toward her. "Smell you?" She nodded, her gaze flicking toward the door. "They are hunters trained to track any scent. They will not stop. Not until I am caught." Lightning split the sky, flooding the hut with white light for a brief second. In that flash, Ethan saw them more clearly through the small window, two figures standing still just beyond the tree line. Their armor was thick, dark, and wet with rain, but their helmets had narrow glowing strips where eyes should be. Carried a weapon shaped like a spear, but the tips shimmered with a dangerous blue light. Ethan's muscles tightened. "They are watching us," he said. "They are deciding how to break in," Saraya replied, her voice almost a whisper. "If they rush the door, you will not be able to stop them. Our weapons cut through stone." Ethan felt the weight of her words, but he wasn't ready to run. "Then tell me why they are chasing you," he demanded. Saraya looked away for a moment, as if weighing whether to tell him. Then she leaned closer to the fire, her face half lit, half in shadow. "I belong to one of the High Lords," she said, her tone carrying a mix of anger and shame. "He kept me as a prize, nothing more than something to show off us. But I escaped, and I took something that belongs to him, something worth more than his life." Ethan narrowed his eyes. "And now they are here to take it back," she said, "and to make sure I never breathe again." Another flash of lightning lit the forest outside, and this time Ethan saw a third shape, shorter but bulkier than the others, moving quickly between the trees. It carried something that looked like a curved blade. His gut told him this one was the most dangerous of the three. The wind shifted. A faint sound reached his ears, a strange metallic clicking, followed by a low hum. Saraya's head snapped toward the sound, her eyes wide. "They are marking the hut," she said. "Marking it?" Ethan asked. "They are locking onto it. Soon, their weapons will fire, and the walls will not hold." Ethan's mind raced. The hut had no real defenses, only wood and a thin roof. If what she said was true, staying still was death. "Then we move now," he said, his voice firm. Saraya's breathing quickened. "If we leave now, they will chase us. If we stay, they will burn the hut down. Either way, they will not stop." Ethan went to the small cupboard by the wall and pulled out an old hunting rifle, its barrel scratched from years of use. It was no match for alien armor, but it was all he had. "Then we make it costly for them," he said. Saraya shook her head. "You do not understand. Your bullets will not pierce their armor." "Maybe not," Ethan said, "but they can still be blinded, slowed, distracted. And if I distract them, maybe you can run." Her eyes locked on his. "No, if you fight them alone, you will die. And I." She stopped, her voice breaking, then finished with a whisper, "I do not want to leave you here." Before Ethan could answer, a sudden loud crash shook the walls. Something heavy had landed on the roof. Rain splashed in through a crack as dust fell from the ceiling. Saraya's hand gripped his arm. "One of them is above us," she said. Ethan grabbed a small lantern and motioned for her to move toward the far corner. Another crash followed, and the roof creaked under the weight. Then came the sound of claws scraping against wood. They are not human, Ethan thought, and he felt the truth in his bones. The front door rattled as the two outside pounded against it. The latch jumped with each hit. Saraya's markings glowed brighter, lighting her face in an otherworldly light. She reached into the torn fabric at her side and pulled out something small, a silver crystal, no bigger than a coin that pulsed softly in her palm. "Take this," she said quickly, pressing it into Ethan's hand. "What is it?" he asked, feeling its warmth against his skin. "It is a key and a promise. If you keep me alive tonight, I will make sure you live a life no one on this world can imagine." The roof groaned again, and a sharp point of blue light pierced through one of the wooden beams. Ethan didn't know what the crystal truly was, but he knew one thing: the night was about to explode into chaos. He slid the crystal into his pocket, tightened his grip on the rifle, and gave her a single nod. "Then stay close," he said, "because they are coming in." And with the next crash, the hunt truly began. The door shuddered again, the wood groaning under the weight of the pounding outside. Ethan's knuckles turned white as he gripped the rifle, every muscle tense. The storm roared louder, yet it still could not hide the sound of the heavy steps and clods scraping on the roof. Inside the hut, the fire was burning low, throwing just enough light to catch the silver crystal's faint glow from inside Ethan's pocket. Soraya crouched near the wall, her glowing marks pulsing faster, as if reacting to the danger pressing in from all sides. "They are testing the walls," she said quickly, her voice sharp, trying to find the weakest point. Ethan kept his eyes on the door. "Then we make sure they never get through." She shook her head. "You do not understand. They will get through. The question is what happens after." A loud snap rang out from above as a section of the roof gave way, and part of a dark armored leg pushed through the gap before pulling back. It was clear they were trying to open a hole big enough to drop in. Soraya's gaze stayed fixed on him. "Ethan, if you want to survive tonight, you must listen to me. I can offer you something no human has ever had, but you must accept it now." Ethan's mind was split between the pounding on the door and her words. "Offer me what?" he demanded. She reached into the folds of her torn clothing again and pulled out another object, a thin band made of some dark metal, shaped like a bracelet but with faint symbols glowing along its surface. "This will bind you to me," she said, "and in doing so, it will give you part of my strength. You will see faster, move faster, and hear them before they strike." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Sounds like a trick." Her eyes narrowed. "If I wanted to trick you, I would have left you to die when they first came. You have given me shelter. Let me give you the power to keep it." Before he could answer, a spear of blue light burst through the wall beside the door, cutting a clean hole through the wood. The heat from it scorched the air. Soraya flinched but did not move from her spot. Ethan swore under his breath and fired through the new hole. The rifle's report was deafening inside the small space. Through the flash of lightning, he saw one of the armored figures stagger slightly, not hurt, but caught off balance. "They are stronger than you think," Soraya warned. "You cannot fight them as you are." Ethan glanced at the bracelet in her hand. "If I put that on, what does it do to me?" "It will connect us," she said without hesitation. "Your body will change only for a time, but enough to give us a chance." The sound of claws scraping down the wall cut through their words. One of the hunters was moving toward the window. Ethan fired again, shattering the glass and sending splinters into the night. The shadow moved back into the trees. Soraya rose from the floor, closing the space between them. She held the bracelet out to him, her voice urgent. "This is the first thing I can offer you, protection. If you take it, you will have a chance. If you do not, the night will end here for both of us." Ethan hesitated only a moment longer before taking the band from her. The metal was cool at first, then warmed instantly in his grip. He slid it onto his wrist, and the glowing symbols flared to life. A sudden rush of sensation hit him. The crackle of the fire became sharper, the pounding on the door louder, the rain outside distinct in every droplet. His muscles felt charged, ready to move. "What did you do to me?" he asked. "I gave you what you needed," Soraya said, her gaze locked on his. "Now fight like your life depends on it, because it does." The door latch snapped under a final blow, the wood splintering inward. Ethan raised the rifle, aiming at the gap. The first hunter stepped inside, its armor dripping with rain, glowing spear raised. Ethan fired without hesitation.
"Oh, this time?"
He saw the shot coming alive in slow detail, the recoil of the gun, the flash, the way the hunter twisted its body to deflect the bullet. The second hunter shoved through the broken doorway. Saraya's markings blazed brighter, and she moved to stand beside Ethan.
Nice.
"This is only the beginning," she said. "If you survive, I will give you more than you can imagine." Ethan tightened his grip on the rifle, the strange power in his veins humming like electricity. Whatever she was offering, whatever it would cost. The choice was already made, and as the hunters closed in, he understood something. This fight was not just about surviving the night. It was about deciding whose side he truly stood on. The doorway was nothing but splintered wood now, the cold wind and rain rushing in as two armored hunters stepped inside. Their glowing spears hummed with deadly energy, casting an eerie blue light across the hut. Ethan felt the metal band on his wrist pulse, the strange symbols glowing brighter, filling him with a strength he had never known. Saraya moved behind him, her eyes locked on the intruders. The glowing marks along her arms pulsed faster, matching the light from the spears. She whispered quickly, "Do not let them surround you. They move together. They strike as one." The first hunter lunged forward, spear slicing through the air. Ethan moved faster than he thought possible, twisting his body just in time. The spear missed by inches, slicing a deep mark into the wall behind him. Without thinking, Ethan slammed the butt of his rifle into the hunter's helmet. The impact, ringing through the room. The alien stumbled back, not hurt badly, but surprised. The second hunter stepped to the side, trying to flank him. Ethan fired a shot, the bullet sparking against the armor. The hunter didn't fall, but the force slowed its advance. Saraya called, "Out! They are testing you. The real attack will come from above." Ethan glanced up just in time to see the hole in the roof widen. A third hunter dropped through, heavier than the others, landing between him and Saraya. This one carried a long curved blade, its edge glowing faintly. Ethan's breath caught. 3 against 1 was bad enough, but with the way they moved, it felt like fighting a single creature with 3 bodies. The third hunter raised its weapon. Saraja's markings flared bright, and she shouted something in a language Ethan couldn't understand. The hunter hesitated for a split second, long enough for Ethan to grab Saraya's arm and pull her toward the trapdoor in the floor. "This way," he said. She hesitated. "If we run, they will follow. If we stay, they'll kill us now," he shot back. The third hunter stepped forward, blade raised. Ethan kicked over the fire pit, sending sparks and hot embers flying into the air. The sudden burst of heat and light made the hunters shift back just enough for him to shove Saraya toward the trapdoor. She dropped into the darkness below, and Ethan followed, pulling the wooden hatch closed above them. The space beneath the hut was cramped and smelled of damp earth. Ethan had used it before to store supplies, never as a hiding place. Saraya crouched beside him, her glowing marks faint. Now, the light from them casting thin lines on the dirt walls above them, the hunters moved through the hut. Heavy boots clanged against the wooden floor. One of them struck the walls with the spear, the vibration traveling through the ground into Ethan's bones. "They are searching," Saraya whispered. "They know we are close." Ethan listened. The storm outside still raged, but the sounds above were sharper now, slow, careful movements.
Oh.
The hunters were patient. They were not leaving without her. He checked the small crawl space leading out the back of the underground room. "We can use this," he said quietly. "It leads to the trees." Saraya shook her head. "If we run now, they will track me in." "Minutes. You do not understand how they hunt." Ethan stared at her. "Then tell me fast." Her eyes met his, steady despite the fear. "They smell my blood. They feel my energy. They can follow me even if I hide in the deepest cave. There is only one way to escape. We must reach the portal." Ethan frowned. Portal. A gate hidden in the forest, left behind from an old war, she explained. "It will take us far from here, but it is dangerous, guarded by things worse than them." The thud of heavy boots above cut the talk short. Dust fell from the ceiling as one of the hunters stepped directly over their hiding place. Saraya's hand gripped Ethan's wrist, the metal band burning hotter against his skin. "We must move," she whispered. "Now." Ethan took the lead, crawling through the narrow tunnel at the back. It opened into the forest, the rain hitting his face in cold, sharp drops. Sphera followed, moving quickly, despite her bare feet and torn clothes. The forest was dark, the wind bending the trees. Somewhere behind them, a sharp cry rang out, not human, not animal, but a harsh alien sound that cut through the storm. "They have our trail," Soraya said. Ethan raised his rifle, and we keep ahead of it. They ran between the trees, the mud pulling at their boots, the branches clawing at their clothes. The storm made it hard to hear, but every so often, Ethan caught the faint hum of the spears behind them. Getting closer, Soraya moved like she knew the land, darting between thick roots and ducking under fallen logs. Ethan stayed close, the strange energy from the bracelet keeping his legs strong even as the cold bit into his lungs. At last, they reached a slope covered in moss, the ground slick and treacherous. Soraya pointed upward. "At the top, there is a cave. We can rest for a moment." Ethan didn't like the idea of stopping, but the sound of pursuit was fading. They climbed, slipping once or twice, until they reached the mouth of the cave. Inside, the air was warmer, the sound of the storm muted. Soraya leaned against the wall, breathing hard. "You saved me again," she said. Ethan shook his head. "Not yet. You said there's a portal. That's where we're going next." Her eyes met his, and for the first time, she almost smiled. "Yes, but first I must give you the second thing I promised. Without it, we will not survive the next part of the journey." Outside in the distance, the alien cry echoed again, closer this time, as if the hunters were reminding them that the game was far from over. The cave walls dripped with water, the slow drops echoing in the dim light. Outside, the storm raged on, but here the wind was softer, muffled by stone. Ethan stood near the entrance, rifle ready, eyes scanning the dark forest below. Syrah was further inside, her glowing marks faint but steady, her breathing beginning to calm. "They are still coming," Ethan said, his voice low. "The cry we heard, it's closer than before." Soraya stepped toward him, her bare feet silent against the damp stone. "Yes," she said, "they will never stop. That is why I must give you more than just the band. You will not make it to the portal without this." Ethan turned to face her. "You keep talking about that portal. You better start explaining before I decide this is all a bad idea." She tilted her head slightly, studying him as if trying to decide how much to reveal. Then she reached for the crystal he had put in his pocket earlier. "That key," she said, "is not just a gift. It is a living fragment of my world's heartstone, something that should never be here. It will open the portal, but it can also do more. It can change you." Ethan frowned. "Change me how?" Her violet eyes locked onto his. "Will link your life to mine. If I die, you die. If I'm hurt, you feel it. But in return, you will gain the same senses I have. You will see in the dark, hear the smallest sound, and feel the energy of those who hunt us. You will move like them and fight like them." Ethan's grip tightened on the rifle. "That sounds like a bad trade for me." She stepped closer, her voice lower now. "Without it, you will not survive what is ahead. The hunters will not be our only problem. There are things in the forest between us and the portal that will not fear your weapon." Ethan studied her for a long moment. Rain dripped from the cave mouth, the sound steady. Behind her words, he heard no lie, only urgency. "You said this is the second thing you promised me," he said finally. "The first was the band. The second is this, Link." "Yes," she said. "And if we succeed, if we reach the portal, I will give you the third, the one that will change your life forever." Ethan let out a slow breath. "And what happens if I say no?" She didn't look away. "Then I keep running alone, and you will die here, either by the hunters or the other creatures in these woods. That is the truth." Thunder rolled outside, and Ethan thought about the shadows in the trees, the speed of the hunters, the way they had cut through his door like paper. He had no illusions about how long he could survive without an edge. He pulled the crystal from his pocket. It glowed faintly in his hand, the light shifting like it was alive. "All right," he said. Soraya moved quickly, her hands warm as she placed them over his. The glow of the crystal flared, and for a moment the cave was filled with bright silver light. Ethan felt a rush, like ice water and fire running through his veins at the same time. His vision sharpened, the edges of the cave becoming crystal clear, even in the dimness. Could hear the rain outside hitting individual leaves and far, in the distance, the soft metallic hum of the hunters moving through the forest. He staggered slightly, gripping the wall. What was that? Soraya stepped back, her markings now glowing in rhythm with the band on his wrist. The link is complete. You are part of my life now, and I am part of yours. Ethan flexed his fingers, feeling the strange energy humming under his skin. I don't like the idea of dying if you die. Then make sure I do not, she replied simply. Before Ethan could answer, his sharpened hearing picked up a new sound. Soft, deliberate footsteps in the mud, getting closer. He looked toward the cave entrance. They're here, he said. Soraya's eyes widened slightly. Already? They've split up, Ethan said, the new sense telling him exactly where they were. Two are moving around the left side. One is coming straight up. Soraya grabbed his arm. Cannot fight them in here. The cave will trap us. We must move to higher ground. They ran deeper into the cave, finding a narrow tunnel that sloped upward. The walls closed in around them and water dripped from the ceiling. The tunnel opened into another exit higher on the slope, looking out over a steep drop into the forest below. Ethan crouched at the edge, scanning the shadows. The hunters' blue lights moved between the trees, patient and relentless. Soraya pointed toward a narrow ridge that cut across the mountain. So that way, if we cross it, we can reach the old riverbed. The portal is only a few hours from there. Ethan nodded, then glanced back down the slope. The hunters were climbing, their armor glistening wet in the storm. They moved without hurry, as if they knew there was nowhere for their prey to run. Soraya touched the band on his wrist. You feel them now, don't you? Ethan nodded slowly. I feel everything, and you know we cannot waste time, she said. They climbed onto the ridge. The wind whipping at them, the stones slick underfoot. Far below, the blue light spread out, the hunters moving to cut them off. Ethan tightened his grip on the rifle. Lead the way, he said, and together, bound by the new link. They ran across the ridge with death following close behind. The ridge was narrow, the wind pushing hard against them, the stones wet and slick underfoot. Below, the forest swayed under the weight of the storm. But Ethan's sharpened senses caught every movement, the shifting of branches, the splash of heavy boots in the mud, the low metallic hum of the hunter's weapons. Soraya moved ahead with sure steps, her glowing marks lighting the rock just enough for Ethan to follow. She glanced back, her voice raised over the wind. They are spreading out. One is already climbing the slope behind us. Ethan didn't need her warning, he could feel the faint pull in his mind, like the hunters were sparks of heat in the cold. One's getting closer from the left, he said. If we stay on this ridge, they'll box us in. There is a path ahead, Soraya replied. It will take us down to the riverbed, but we must be fast. They pressed on the wind, whipping at their clothes. A sudden flash of blue light cut through the storm, striking the rock just behind Ethan's heels. The stone hissed and smoked where it hit. He didn't look back, he just ran. Another bolt of light came, this one, closer, forcing him to duck. The ridge narrowed into a sharp turn around a jagged outcrop. Soraya leapt across the gap, landing lightly, but Ethan's boots slipped on the wet stone. For a second, his foot dangled over open air before he caught himself and jumped. As soon as he landed, a shadow loomed ahead. One of the hunters was already on the ridge, blocking the path, spear humming with deadly energy. Its armor gleamed in the rain, its glowing visor fixed on them. Soraya's voice was sharp. Do not stop. Move past him.
Ow.
The hunter lunged. Ethan ducked low, the spear slicing through the air above his head, the hum of it vibrating in his chest. He drove his shoulder into the hunter's side, the force surprising even himself. The alien stumbled back against the rock wall, its grip on the spear loosening for a moment. Ethan seized the chance to push forward, pulling Soraya with him. Behind them, the hunter roared a deep mechanical sound and gave chase. The ridge sloped downward now, slick with moss. Below, Ethan could see the dark ribbon of the old riverbed winding through the forest. Soraya was already sliding down, her bare feet finding grip where his boots struggled. Halfway down, Ethan turned his head and saw the second hunter drop onto the slope from above. Ash! This one carried a shorter weapon, a blade with a serrated, glowing edge. Its movements were faster, more aggressive. "They're trying to cut us off," Ethan said. "Then we reached the riverbed first," Soraya replied. They hit the bottom, their boots sinking into soft mud. The river had long since dried, leaving a path of black soil and scattered stones. The banks rose high on either side, offering cover from the storm but also trapping them in a narrow channel. The rain poured down in sheets, and the mud made every step harder. Behind them, the hunters' boots slapped against the wet earth, their glowing weapons casting light across the dark riverbed. Sigh. Raya turned suddenly, her glowing marks flaring. She raised her hands and a burst of shimmering energy shot from her palms, striking the ground between them and the hunters. The soil exploded upward in a spray of mud and rock, slowing their pursuers for a moment. Ethan stared at her. "Could have done that before? Cost me," she said, her voice tight. "I cannot use it often." The hunters pushed forward through the debris, relentless. Ethan fired a shot, the bullet sparking against the lead hunter's visor. It jerked back, but kept coming. Soraya grabbed his arm. "There's a narrow pass ahead. If we make it through, they will have to come one at a time." They ran, the sound of their own breathing loud in their ears. The pass appeared as two walls of stone leaning together, leaving a jagged gap just wide enough for one person to slip through. Soraya went first, vanishing into the shadows beyond. Ethan turned, firing again to slow the hunters, then ducked into the gap. The stone scraped his shoulders as he squeezed through, his boots slipping on wet rock. On the other side, Soraya waited, holding the crystal in her hand. Its glow was stronger now, pulsing like a heartbeat. "We are close," she said. "I can feel the portal's pull." Before Ethan could answer, the first hunter forced its way into the pass, spear raised. The glow of its weapon lit the stone around them. Ethan didn't hesitate. He slammed his rifle's butt into the spear, knocking it upward, then shoved the hunter back into the narrow gap. The alien's armor scraped against the rock, slowing its movements. Saria's voice was urgent. "We must go now." Ethan followed her into the trees beyond the pass. The forest here was denser, the air heavy with mist. Somewhere ahead, a faint rhythmic hum rose above the sound of the storm. It was unlike the hunter's weapons, softer, almost alive. Soraya pointed forward. "That is the portal. We are almost there." Ethan glanced back. The blue lights were still moving, relentless, cutting through the mist. Almost didn't sound safe enough, but they had no choice but to keep running. The mist grew thicker as they moved forward, swirling around their legs like pale smoke. The forest was silent here, no birds, no rustle of small animals, only the steady hum ahead. Ethan's sharpened senses told him they were close, and Soraya's quickened steps confirmed it. Through the trees, a faint light glowed. Not like fire or electricity, but something older, alive. They stepped into a clearing, and there it stood, a massive ring of stone, carved with strange symbols, half covered in moss. The center shimmered like liquid glass, rippling even without wind. The hum came from deep within it, a sound that seemed to vibrate in Ethan's bones. Soraya's eyes shone. "The portal," she said softly, almost like a prayer. "Once we pass through, they cannot follow." "Ah-da-da." Ethan kept his rifle ready, scanning the mist behind them. "We won't make it through without a fight. They're closer than you think." She replied, "I can feel them." He could feel them too. 3 burning presences, cutting through the fog with steady purpose. The hum of their weapons was faint but growing. Soraya turned to him, her voice urgent. "There is one more thing I must do before we enter. This is my final offer to you, and it will decide everything." Ethan frowned. "What do you mean?" She stepped closer, holding the silver crystal between them. "The link we share has given you some of my strength. But if you accept the final bond, You will carry part of my life force forever. You will live longer than any human. You will heal faster. You will sense danger before it comes. But there is a price. He kept his eyes on hers. What kind of price? If you accept, you will be tied to me in ways you cannot break. Where I go, you go. If I am bound, you are bound. If I am hunted, you will be hunted with me. You will never be free of my world. Weight of her words hung heavy between them. Behind them, the mist shifted, a faint blue light glowing through the fog. The hunters were coming. Ethan's grip tightened on the rifle. You're giving me a choice in the middle of this. She nodded. Because you deserve the choice. I will not drag you into my war without your will. Step through the portal without the final bond, and we part ways forever. Take it, and you will stand at my side in whatever comes next. Low. Behind them grew stronger. The hunters were in the clearing now, their weapons humming louder. Ethan made his choice without another word. Do it. Soraya's markings flared bright, casting the clearing in silver light. She pressed the crystal to his chest, and a wave of heat and cold surged through him at once. His vision swam, his heartbeat thundered in his ears, and for a moment it felt like the ground vanished beneath his feet. Then it passed. He was still standing, but the world around him seemed sharper, every detail alive. He could hear the hunter's boots scraping against stone, feel the ripple of the portals, energy against his skin, and sense Soraya's heartbeat as if it were his own. The nearest hunter stepped forward, raising its spear. Ethan moved before it could strike, closing the distance in a blur. The rifle barked once, and the shot slammed into the hunter's visor with enough force to stagger it. Soraya raised her hands, sending a wave of shimmering energy toward the second, knocking it off its feet. The third hunter, the heavy one with the curved blade, broke through the mist, charging straight at them. Ethan turned, catching its swing with the rifle's barrel, sparks flying as metal met glowing edge. The new strength in his limbs held steady, and with a sudden twist, he knocked the weapon aside. Soraya's voice rang out behind him. Now, through the portal, Ethan didn't hesitate. He shoved the heavy hunter back, grabbed Soraya's arm, and ran with her into the center of the stone ring. The surface of the portal rippled like water as they hit it, swallowing them in silver. Light. For a heartbeat, there was no forest, no storm, no hunters, only endless brightness and the hum of energy all around. Then the light faded, and they stepped out onto solid ground again. The air was warmer, sky a deep purple, streaked with strange stars. The portal stood behind them, dark and silent. There was no sign of the hunters. Soraya looked at Ethan, her expression unreadable. It is done. You are bound to me now. He studied the alien world stretching before them, distant glow of strange cities on the horizon, the unfamiliar constellations above. Guess there's no turning back. Her lips curved into the faintest smile. No turning back, and no running alone. Ethan adjusted the rifle on his shoulder, feeling the strange new energy in his blood. The night was quiet here, but deep down, he knew the peace would not last. Somewhere out there, more dangers waited, but now they would face them together.